that's why I was saying in some of the memes, like supporting women riders is supporting mountain biking, just mountain biking. You're not even supporting women's mountain biking. By supporting women riders, you're supporting the entire sport of mountain biking, because this does affect everyone and has it can be a catalyst for the right type of change in the industry. But we just make memes, so I don't know.
Hello, Carly and Becca. Welcome to the Extremely Well podcast. I am so excited to have you both on. For those that don't know who I'm speaking with right now, Carly and Becca are part of a meme page called Girls Pull Up, Not Out. And it is like, I'm trying not to fangirl this podcast. So if I get a little bit weird, like, please excuse me. But I absolutely love your page. It's, when you open the app, and like, there's always that one page that you're just obsessed with, like at that moment just pops up. Like, you guys are always, without a doubt, like number one. Like, I always get like your memes and stuff in. So
that's awesome. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you guys on the podcast with me today. So hello. Just for anyone listening or watching as well, we're doing this remotely. So I'm based in Australia and the girls here are based in America. So we are a little bit away from each other. So if there are some lags or things get a bit blurry or someone cuts out, that's why. So we're dealing with, the weather's actually a nice day here, but you guys have thunderstorms where you are, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Go figure.
Yes. So just be patient with us. We'll get there, and we're trying to make this work. So tech is not our forte. So we're doing the best we can. Just want to start by each of you introducing yourself, what you're passionate about, and just a little bit about like your background, I guess, and who you guys are.
So I'm Carly. Pretty passionate about bikes, obviously. I started riding 5 years ago, actually starting in this July will be 5 years of biking. Other than that, that's kind of my background with bikes. I'm a physical therapist by trade. So when it comes to coaching, I'm pretty obsessed with seeing people progress on bikes, which is kind of what I do in my spare time. I coach women with dirt, rock, and route training. And now Becca and I just run a meme page.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome. I'm Becca, and I am a registered nurse by trade. So Carly and I both have healthcare backgrounds, and before that, we tried to make our way with art degrees that clearly went nowhere. So here we are now working in healthcare, running a meme page. I started riding mountain biking in 2012. And got into downhill about 3 or 4 years ago. Downhill is my absolute passion. I love it so much. It's just awakened something in me, which is, I'm obsessed with it. Other than running this meme page, which has been a blast and a crazy wild ride of success, really passionate about supporting women's mountain biking, getting more women on bikes. And we've seemed to kind of find a way to do that through memes, which is awesome. And yeah, here we are.
Amazing. How did you guys meet?
Okay. Honestly, I don't even remember exactly how we met. I feel like we met in a group chat started by our bike friends. And then we like kind of had this crazy chemistry where we like bounced funny ideas off each other in a group chat. And our friends were like, you guys should make a meme page. And we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, y'all are dumb. And then eventually we're like, wait a minute, this might be a great idea. So we kind of started it, I think, remotely. And then did we meet in person after, or was it before we did the page?
It was before. So we met in person before, we met just basically through the same riding circles. And we met and like we would do a couple laps together and, hang out at the beer garden. We met basically at our local bike park, the bike park that Carly is really local to. It's about 2 hours from me. And it was just kind of through like these mutual people that, we rode bikes with that we met, and just then we got thrown into this group chat. And we were both Hand Up Gloves ambassadors before we started this. So we kind of like chatted a little bit about that stuff. And then, we were always just, I don't know, making off the wall stupid comments and jokes in this group chat. And someone was like, you guys should really start like your own page. And I don't know if Carly messaged me first or I messaged her, and I was like, you wanna? And we did it just on a whim with like no expectations and no pressure. Like if we forgot about it for a week, who cares? Like it was just nothing. And the more success we got, we like freaked out and we're like, oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, we met through bikes, and now here we are running this page. It's great.
That's so cool. And you guys started out like the page I can't say the word, anonymously, didn't you? So like, because I remember when I first started following, I was like, who are the people? Like, who are the gals behind this? And you'd sometimes like post little teasers, and I'm like, who are they? Why did you guys, was that like a decision that you guys made, or was it like because some of the stuff you post, like, was that to, I guess, take that pressure off, and that you could like conceal your guys and you could be like as outrageous as you wanted to be? Or like talk us through like why that is.
Yeah.
Or
so, we actually decided to be anonymous at first. Even our closest friends didn't know it was us. We joked all the time that we were like two raccoons in a trench coat. That was kind of what we like rocked with for a while. And the raccoon was like our mascot way before frogs, which is really funny how like that changed about. But we got invited on the Women's Mountain Bike Network podcast and show. And then we were like, well, I guess this is it. We're going to do it. We're going to show our faces and see what happens. And that kind of started the history. But it was really funny. A lot of people thought it was a bunch of guys that were running the page. So that was an interesting thing to be like, hey, by the way, we're not guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool because since our friends suggested it, I think we just started anonymous just to, not have to really explain ourselves or answer for ourselves, and kind of took the pressure off, the way I saw it too, of like, if it bombs, it bombs. If it's cool, then fine. We had no expectations. And so it was just kind of easier to not connect our identities. And it's not like we have some huge personal social media, presence. It was just easier, I think, to run it anonymously. And then it was hilarious because even in our group chat, they would like share our memes, and they would like send us our own memes, and we'd be like, yeah, it's pretty fucking funny. Like, yep, you're right. That is funny. And I would see like my friends start passing it around in circles and stuff. And when I met Mia and I started working with the Women's MTB Network, I had told her, because I didn't want there to be any sort of conflict if I don't know. So once she found out, she was like, oh, I got to get you guys on the podcast, blah, blah, blah. And success had really been kind of taking off for us in terms of followers. And I think we just kind of felt ready to lean into it. And it was hilarious because our friends were really like, that was you the whole time? Like, that was you guys? We're like, yeah, that was.
Yeah, you were pretty funny. That's so cool.
And we're not a bunch of dudes. We're not a bunch of dudes. I think that was the other thing we really wanted to set out to prove, that like one of the things I remember, we always felt like women deserve to be a part of this funny conversation too, right? Like women's experiences are just as valid in the humor sphere and in that realm. And like what women writers have to say is just as funny. So the fact that they thought men were creating this female narrative is just hilariously kind of on the nose and ironic. But I think it became time for us to be known as like, no, we're women. We do ride bikes. We're not just, tourists riding down to get ice cream on our little beach cruisers, which there's nothing wrong with that. But we were committed to it. And here we are.
Yeah, it's so epic. And I love that it was all being passed around like in the group chats as well. And I think that piece about the women's experience, like I know that because like finding other women to ride with, like it can be such a small community as well, especially ones that like ride in the way that you want to ride, like that's downhill, or you want to ride like big jumps or like dirt jumps or something. Like finding another female in that space that you also like click with and have good banter with can be really hard. And I think like I've shown your memes to like some of like my guy friends who ride bikes, and they're like and I'm like, it's fucking funny. Like, look, it's like a trail channel. Like, it's like, look, like, you know, and they just don't have the same experience, so that the memes just don't land in like the same way. Yeah, no, it's so good. What do you guys reckon has been like your highlight so far with the page?
So that's, I feel like, a really difficult question to ask, because I feel like every day is a new highlight. We always have something new to talk about. But I feel like for us, it was creating a platform for women and allowing women to realize, hey, you're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to be part of this community just as much as the guys are, and you're just as amazing as they are. I feel like we have gotten so many messages and like DMs from women who are like, thank you so much. Like, this is crazy. We relate to this. Yeah, Beck, I don't know if you want to add anything to that. That's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, that absolutely culminates everything that we set out to do. And what's cool is that like Carly and I vibe really, really well with running this page, because we understand that it's low risk, right? So we can really be vulnerable and put ourselves out there with ideas or, you know, things that are important to us, but we're just doing it through humor. And I think what's really amazing is how much we have connected with people, all with our goal. Our sole purpose has really been to elevate women's mountain biking. Like, that is our goal. And we don't, you know, we never set out to do this for, I don't know what, internet fame, influencer status, like that kind of stuff. Like, no, that's never been our vibe or what we've sought. So to get the actual like authentic feedback that we've received has been amazing. And I think it's been really, I don't know, inspiring, empowering. It's just been really cool to see that through humor and through creating relatable content, that it has helped support that conversation. And, you know, we've been asked to participate in different things, and we've got some great things lined up on the horizon for us, all with the idea of supporting this. And it all started from us running a meme account, you know, and
yeah,
it started off like for me, I think our early highlights were us literally fangirling over some of the followers we would get, or some people that would like our content or share our stuff would be like, oh my God, did you see who just shared our meme? Oh my God, did you see who still liked it? And I still do that. Like, when I see some of these epic shredders, men and women, like huge, you know, and it's just, and I know it's a like on a meme page, like I know, but it's still just, that was like early on just something that, I don't know, never really like, it was always fun. But now getting to build this as a brand and getting to build this as a company now, we registered as an LLC, and we've been able to kind of grow this idea. That's just been amazing. And the kind of stuff we've got coming up on the horizon, it's wild. It's wild. So it's been such a cool experience, start to finish, for sure.
That's so cool. And I actually wanted to go back to, it's actually really interesting, Carly, that you were talking about like women are allowed to take up space. Like that like comes down to it. So I was riding with a friend who's just gotten into riding within the last like couple years, and we were at Threadbow, which is like a bike park up from where we are, and it's so sick, and it's got chairs running, so that can be super daunting for people for the first time, like riding shuttles. It's one way and people are like bombing the hill behind you. And that friend of mine, she kept like pulling over, and I remember having the conversation with her, and I was like, you pay just as much to do, like, to be here. Like, you can do whatever you like and you can take up just as much space as any of them. Like, you do not need to pull over just because someone is like right there. Like, just wait for a safe corner, pull over when like, and then they can keep riding. And like, it's okay. And I think it's so awesome to hear that your meme page is reinforcing that fact of take up space, like have your experience and do this like how you want to do this. It's empowering shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that was something that we've held near and dear to our hearts. And like we're always keeping that in the back of our minds, like what we're doing and how we're expanding. We always want to make sure that women in biking is our number one kind of overarching theme. Like we're always here to support other women, whether like we have mostly men that actually follow our page, which is bonkers. But we're always like trying to connect with women. We're trying to like reinforce that, hey, ladies are allowed, like female identifying people, you're allowed to be here. Like, it doesn't matter if men started it. No one gives a shit. Like, everyone's a human. You're allowed to be fun to be on a, like, stoked to be on a bike.
100%.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And, you know, as we get involved in some kind of other endeavors and things, what we've always maintained is that we want to stay connected to our authentic self, right? And we want to stay connected to what we've set out to do. And that's elevating women's mountain biking. So it's, we've never really found any desire to stray from that or any like pressure to stray from that. But even, you know, when we make content, sometimes it can, some responses that we get are this like not all men sort of thing, right? Like when we're having conversations about supporting women in one way versus another, it can kind of turn into like men saying, well, I've never experienced that, so it must not be true. And it's hard. It's been a challenge, I think, at times to make sure that when we are supporting women's mountain biking, that isn't designed to put men down. Like you can support women's mountain biking in and of itself. That is not us putting men down. Like you can still make fun of the experience. You can still laugh at the experience and trail chats and all of that without the expense of like putting men down. And I think we've done a really good job of maintaining that balance because we have a great connection with a lot of men riders in our life, right? And the fact that over 60% of our followers are men. So clearly we're going well in that argument. And we've received such great feedback from men as well, men with daughters or men who ride with their wives. And it's great to see that the message is connecting to people that support the women riders in their life. So not only are we trying to support women in and of themselves, you know, anyone that just wants to get on a bike, it's great to hear that men are receiving the message and feel like it's a way that they're empowering women in their life too.
Yeah, that's so cool. My next question was actually going to be, what's your biggest challenge? And you went and answered it. And it's one of those things that people say, like, if you're a man, like you all know a woman, like you came from a woman, like, and I think by putting it as like the trail chad, like that's also a way of being like, it's not like some rider. It's like it's almost like externalizing that character or like those comments. Like that isn't, I'll get you to define it actually so that people who's listening, they're like, what the fuck is a trail chat? I've had people ask me when I send them the meme and they're like, what's a trail chat? And I'm like, oh. Yeah. So do you guys want to define what that is to start actually?
Yeah, so a trail chat is just like that one douchebag guy that just thinks that his shit doesn't stink and thinks that women cannot do the same things that men can. So they like immediately look down upon you. They're super condescending. They offer their advice, like they offer advice without asking, which I think is the one thing that women really run into a lot is that like, oh, I see you hitting that jump. Have you tried this? Like, fuck you. No, like I can learn on my own. I didn't ask you. Like the last time I checked, you're not on the fucking Rampage roster, guy. Like get out. No one wants you here. So I think that's kind of like the overarching trail chad. A lot of men think that just because we're shitting on trail chads means we're shitting on all men, which obviously ties back to what we just were talking about, but it's not a pie. There's not individual slices for everybody. So like there are trail chads, but there are some really dope guys too. My partner being one of them. Becca's husband, I'm sure, is the same. He seems pretty rad. I don't know if you want to speak to that one.
He's good. I'll keep him. He's good. But no, Carly's right. Carly's right. I think the trail chat is the way I've always viewed it, is anyone that sets out with the intention of minimizing the women mountain bikers experience. And it's kind of knowingly minimizing that, whether it's being an outright just absolute douchebag, or if a woman does ask for advice, it can be kind of downplaying that experience. I've had this happen before where I've been scared of a feature or this or that or whatever, and someone in the loose conversation is like, oh man, that's easy, all you got to do is lean back and send it and just don't hit the brakes. It's like, wow, thank you so fucking much, now I know how to do it, thank you for making me feel like an absolute idiot. And like there's a way of differentiating between when you're just in your head and you've got the skill and you're just in your head about something, versus breaking down, maybe saying, well, what makes you nervous about it? Like, what makes you scared about it? Or what is it about this feature? But just to give it this blanket generalization, I think that's a perfect example of a trail chad. And a lot of guys give off trail chad behavior without knowing. And I think that's another way that we can be a very educational page as well. Because I think a lot of well-intentioned men might realize, am I a trail chad? Maybe I am. And, everyone can mean well, but if this is just one small way, then maybe people can change their narrative or how they're approaching women or addressing feedback, and it seems like we've gotten a lot of great laughter in response to that. So it's been fun.
Yeah, you guys are, it's because you're opening up the conversation as well about like what a trail chat is, which from my experience, I go on to be like, there are men out there, specifically men, that go, oh, just do this, or that's easy. And they don't realize it's condescending. But in that, I have to share like my experience and how I feel, as long as like a lot of other people feel. And I imagine like even a lot of other like men and a lot of other people that ride feel the same way from other people in the community. Like, I don't think you necessarily have to be a woman or, someone who identifies as a woman to feel that trail chad energy. I think there's always that douchebag that's out there that says the same to everyone. I think just sometimes as a woman, like it can come on really strong because people, I guess there's an assumption that you don't know what you're doing, or that, like, oh, I'll help you because you need help, rather than like asking for consent, being like, how are you feeling? Have you hit this before? Just opening up that conversation can serve a purpose and help someone, rather than being like, oh, you just do this. This is easy. It's not.
And
that
I think, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize if I'm cutting you off, if there's a lag, that's my bad. I think it's important because I think for me at least, and I feel like for a lot of women out there, there's a huge sense of imposter syndrome. That's something that I've struggled with for a long time, a very long time, of I'm not good enough to ride this trail. What am I doing here? Look at all these sick shredders and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of them are men. A lot of them are absolutely sick shredders, and they're epic. And they might be like very well-intentioned or very kind or nice or whatever, but I'm still feeling like an imposter, whether I talk to them or not. So that's my own baggage that I'm dealing with, right? And that's not anyone else's responsibility to deal with. But it adds a component to it that when you do get feedback in certain ways, it's like, geez, do I really not belong here? Like, so it's just another layer to all of it. And it's a side that I think a lot of women deal with, kind of like you were saying with your friend that pulled out of the way and didn't feel like she belonged there. It is hard, even after however many years I've been writing now, to accept that I belong here, regardless of my skill, right? That I belong part of the conversation, regardless of how sick I can send it off of this huge drop or that huge drop. And so, yeah, that's just another layer to it that I think women can specifically identify a lot with.
Yeah, I think to add to that is that women, like, our brains work a little bit differently. Like, we all know that. And men are just like, they literally just, I don't want to speak for all men, but I want to say most men are like, hey, all you have to do is ride off of it. But women's brains are like, we are incredibly calculated. We need to know what our bodies need to do. We need to know how the bike's going to respond. We need to know what the landing looks like. We need a plan. We need to execute the plan, and it needs to go perfectly. And I feel like that's the one component that men don't understand about our brains. Like, you know, sometimes my partner does it where he's like, you know this, you have this skill. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I appreciate that. But like, my brain is saying I don't, and I don't know how to get over that. And sometimes, like, I feel like that's the missing key where people are like, oh, well, just send it. And it's like, no, you don't understand what's happening up here.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's been important for me as a rider to identify how I'm feeling about something. And yeah, I get it all the time from people that I know mean well or have the right intentions and know me personally. And sometimes the feedback is feeling a little bit more like pressure than support. And again, I don't think anyone means it that way, but it's kind of important that I've learned how to stay authentic to what I'm actually feeling, right? I've come back now. This is my second year that I'll be returning after an ACL surgery. And I'm not going to measure up to the way I was riding a couple years ago. I'm just not. And I'm not going to be the same as my close counterparts, right? And it's important for me to remember, like, that's okay. I'm just going to have fun. And if I ride green trails all day long, that's great. If I feel sketchy on a green trail, that's fine. I can sit out. I don't have to go back and hit these features that I've cleared a million times to prove something to myself or to someone else. So I think there's a lot of that internal monologue that us as women deal with, maybe a little bit more. And I think, again, that's just how our brains work.
It's so funny. So I used to work at a school camp, and nothing used to be clearer to me when I would get like groups in, and the girls, they would sit and they'd watch and they'd work it out and they'd ask me a million questions. They needed to talk about it through discussion and through observing, where the boys, they didn't like want to fucking listen to a word I had to say. They're like, I just want to get my hands in there and I just want to climb that thing all the way to the top. Like, I just want to get in it. And I think on the flip side as well, like, a lot of the boys that were maybe scared, they would hold themselves back and they don't want to talk about it. They just were like, oh no, like, that's not for me, which I think it's so interesting when you see it in a young age. It just transfers. Like, we do work differently. And I think, I think it's so important as well to touch on, like, for women, like, it depends where you are in your like menstrual cycle. It depends like your injury and what's happening in your body. Like, if you've trained hard that week, you may not have as much in the tank. If you've had a big week at work, like, if your nervous system has had more of that load, you can't expect yourself to be going into a massive drop or that big jump being like, yeah, I've got this, when you might be a little bit more apprehensive. And I think it's so important to talk about for women, and also for everyone to understand that as well, because everyone has their off days and like, it's okay. And I think, Beka, what you said about like, it's for pleasure and it's taking that pressure off of yourself so that it doesn't get in the way of you having a rad time and you doing it, I assume, because you freaking love it, not because you're wanting to like smash this run. Or sometimes you may be like, yeah, you know what, today's the day that I'm going hard, like, I'm pushing myself. But like, I think it's like that expectation setting is so important, and I think you guys absolutely nailed that when you were talking about that, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly it, because I'm lucky I was able to meet some pretty epic personal goals in riding before my injuries. And it's hard to not hold myself to that same level of skill or expectation again. And I just love it. I just love being out there. I don't care, man. I will ride the same trail all day long as long as I'm having fun. That's fine. I'm going to buy passes to all my parks. Like that's just how it's going to go. So it's a challenge, and it'll continue to be a challenge, but yeah, more fun on bikes.
Yeah, we love fun on bikes. I did want to talk about, I think it's a nice time to segue into representation and how incredibly important it is. I believe it's super important, and I know that you guys know that it's super important as well. Can you guys talk about like why representation is so important in mountain biking and why you're pushing hard for that?
So, at least in my brain, I didn't grow up mountain biking. It wasn't something that actually was, I guess, advertised as something that women can do. I was actually a competitive dancer. That's kind of what, every girl gets into. I loved it. I'm not going to lie. Like it was my piece. And, kind of transitioning into mountain biking, I found that there wasn't the representation that like females in dance. Everyone's like, oh, only girls dance, which is like probably an opposite problem for men. But I noticed that when I was learning how to mountain bike or just downhilling in general, there were no women on the mountain. It was crazy. Like I was standing in line and men were staring at me and it was so uncomfortable where I was like, now I feel this pressure that I need to be good when I'm like literally the girl in a t-shirt and leggings showing up for a lesson. So now that like I've embraced this sport, I want to create something for younger women or like younger girls who are trying to be like, where is my niche? What's out there? What's available? And I want a girl to be like, you know what? Maybe bikes are for me because I didn't have that. So I think it's really important where like little girls can see like Tani Seagrave, like winning World Cups and all and like Valley Holt. Like it's so cool to just be like, yo, they shred. They are badass. Like that's to me is like the pinnacle of representation of like a girl can see like a little girl, 5 years old can see a older woman shredding just as hard as dudes. It's like, that's cool. I don't know about you, Becca, if you want to add to that.
So yeah, mine started when I began riding. I was introduced to a lot of feature length mountain bike films and movies and stuff, and it was always so sick to see these like absolute shredders out there, all men, right, killing it on these features, and it was just so inspiring and just kind of like awe-inducing to see all of this. And I started asking, I was like, well, why are there no women in this? Like, this is crazy. And it just seemed like an obvious thing. Like, why aren't they part of this? Like, it never seemed like it made any sense. Like, I couldn't wrap my brain around it. And I'm like, I know they have to exist. Like, if I ride bikes at my level, which is very basic at that point, I know there are women out there that are absolutely killing it, probably looking for the same thing. So why doesn't this exist? And maybe it was just me being super naive or whatever, but I was always just so blown away that it wasn't out there. And it wasn't until around 2017, I think it was around then, that Anthill Films came out with their full-length movie Return to Earth, which is amazing. And it featured Casey Brown in one of the segments. And it was the very first time a woman was included with her name in the credits in the beginning screen of all the featured riders. Because I remember watching the featured riders, like everyone that was included. I'm like, yeah, all right, another man. Yeah, they're in all of it. And then I see Casey Brown and I was like, oh my God, I know her. Like, I love her as a rider. This is sick. And it was just amazing. It was just so cool to see. And, it's important to see that and to see these young girls out there ripping it. We follow some of the parent run pages of these young kids, these young girls riding. And of course they are inspired by this, right? And I think one of the girls, she was like 7 or 8, was asked, where do you want to go in your mountain bike career? And she said, well, Rampage, obviously. And it was like, fuck yes, why not? Like, yes, women belong here. Women belong at the table. They deserve to take up space. And now getting to see this slowly happening and seeing the story changing and the narrative changing bit by bit, and for Carly and I to be a part of it, even in our just small little silly way of running a meme page, it's so inspiring, and it's so epic. I love it.
So cool. And I mean, because you guys have been super vocal about Red Bull Rampage, and they just announced, it was like a week or two ago, very recently, that women are included in the event, which is what you were so vocal about. Tell us a little bit about like how you're feeling now that is out there, given I guess like the response you got as well to what you were putting out there. Like that wouldn't have been easy. And to now see that like you were part of that conversation, like how are you feeling about it?
Absolutely stoked. It was kind of a shock, but like not really, considering like Crankworks and Mountain Dew and doing their whole thing. But I feel like Beka has more to say about this, considering she was the one who was in full on battle with the creator of Rampage. I was actually driving to pick up my boyfriend from Vermont at that moment in time when all that shit went down last year, when we were actually arguing with the creator of Rampage and how misogynistic he was. And we were almost like, we were fired up, but we were like kind of defeated at the same time. We're like, this man, one, has daughters, which is fucking insane. Two, he literally was like, no. So we really didn't know what the future was. So like waking up to that announcement was wild. But Beka, I'm going to let you take away. This is yours.
So Carly knows I can go a little bit hot-headed rabid dog in response to some times when I feel entitled in representation, and I feel entitled in maybe why what we're doing matters, and I don't know. I can definitely have my moments that I need to be reeled back in. But this one that happened, it all started with a release of an article that I believe was in maybe Outside Magazine. And to be clear, I have since learned a lot that there was some misediting in this original article that misrepresented maybe the original conversation, the words that took place, something. So the co-founder of Red Bull was getting a lot of negative feedback about this. I've since learned that a lot of it might not have been entirely accurate, but that's what we had to go on, right? That's what we had to go on. And when I don't even know if I was tagging him or something, like I was so upset by the way I read this, because the way it was interpreted was like, when women have the skill, then they'll be allowed to ride there, or something kind of along those lines. I'm paraphrasing here, but it kind of made it seem like women don't belong there. They're not talented enough. They're not skilled enough. They don't have a place there. And by learning that Formation was essentially formed by Casey Brown as like that direct response, right? Like she created that for women to have a place to go there. And then it was canceled with no notice and no warning to the women rider, no explanation. And it was canceled. And then women were immediately not included in Rampage. So it was like, well, what the fuck? Like, what the hell? Like, what the hell is this? Like, why are we taking all these massive steps backwards when we're generating more interest and attention? So I just went off the deep end basically with it. But luckily it did get a lot of support, a lot of feedback, a lot of people responding to it and seeing, the conversation. But I was really defeated. I was really defeated after having that conversation with the co-founder, and it was rough, because the things that were stated to me and about kind of us as a meme page, and we were just minimized, just like decimated in value. And it was like, my God, Rampage has been the epitome of mountain biking for me. Like that has been it. Like that is the event that I watched. That has just been the ultimate, like, the elite of the elite for me. And it's always been sick seeing the men there. And I will never stop wanting to see the men send it there. It was always a question of like, well, why can't women just be a part of it? And we're not asking for women to compete against the men. We're just like, why can't they have their own category like women have in every other fucking sport, right? Like, you don't ask the women to compete against men in the Olympics. They have their own category. So why is this any different? You know? And it didn't make sense to me. So I felt really, really low for a while, like getting that response for something that was so, that event has always been so inspiring for me. And to kind of like, I think Carly said, it was a Carly or Mia, never meet your heroes, right? Like that's something that people have said, that sometimes people that you idolize or that you think are so great or so whatever, it turns out that they suck. What sucks about it is this is the first time I've truly experienced that by meeting my heroes. I've met a lot of elite athletes and they have been amazing. Amazing. I met Loic Bruni at Snowshoe. I rode the lift up with him and he was just the coolest dude. He was so laid back. He was so chill, wanted to talk to all the fans. It was amazing. So this was like, I don't know, that really just kind of leveled me. But it started a really, not that we started it, but it helped continue a really, strong part of the conversation. And it's always remained passionate for us. But what's cool is to see the change slowly happening, women being included in the slopestyle event at Crankworks for the first time. We're celebrating that, right? None of this is about like, well, what they haven't done or, but now they are doing it. And so to be able to celebrate what now Red Bull is doing, that feels awesome. Because if you go back and look at the memes we made about this last October, it was like not a good reflection of maybe how we viewed Red Bull or Rampage or things like that. But now it's like this is something we can honestly like be excited to celebrate and to witness this history changing. It's going to change the event entirely. Women have always deserved a place there, and it's really cool to see that progress, to see the change.
When I saw it, I nearly cried. Like I was like, oh my goodness, because it's so funny. Like when all of that was kicking off, and I mean, because your page is like my number one on Instagram, it's like, I mean, I was just like seeing it all, and then all the writers and everything as well. And it was like, there was so much passion and emotion in that, because it's essentially like we were being told that like there isn't a place, and not even that there's not a place, like this isn't actually important, and that you guys are, being emotional or blowing this out of proportion. Or that's how it felt for me anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I think like I left defeated after that period, being like, oh, well, there isn't, going to be that change given the response that was there. And I think, so that's why when like it was announced, it was such a shock. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is like history. Like there's going to be,
it is
there's going to be a women's category at Rampage. And I was like, this is incredible. Because even when Formation was on, it was so incredible. And I remember being like, why do I not know more about this? Like, why can I not go to like Red Bull page and like see all of the highlights and the like Red Bull Black, and like it's like just flogged, And I'm like, how can I find out more about this event? And then I was like, oh, I feel like I haven't seen anything from Formation in a while. And I was like, what's happening? And I had to like go and dig, and I'm like, it's not happening anymore, I guess. And then so now to see that there's a category and it's going to be across 2 days, and I'm so excited. I feel like it's like re-sparked my like passion, and I'm like, yes, this fucking matters. And I think for myself, like representation, like when I see like sick chicks doing sick things and like how stoked they are, it lights the fire in me, and it makes me want to go to ride. It makes me want to talk about it. It like spreads, and it's like, it's infectious. You speak to other people, like we're talking about it now. And I think it just goes through the community. I had so many friends that don't ride bikes, and they were like, I really want to know what's happening in these memes and like what they mean, but like I don't, but I'm just like so happy for you, because they knew how important like this is for me. And yeah, it's just like little things like that I think like that's me as like a 28-year-old. Like if you're like a 14, 15-year-old girl and you're seeing what's possible, like this is how it progresses. This is how the skills progress. This is how the industry keeps going. I'm so freaking pumped.
Yeah,
I can't bloody wait.
I know.
To add to that, I mean, the whole thing that like women being elevated now, like men, I feel like I said earlier, like I feel like the men who don't support this think that attention in mountain biking is a pie, and that there's not going to be enough pie for everybody. And in reality, that doesn't exist. This having women included opens up an entire new audience, a new demographic that biking, which is a very poor sport, now has support from. So now it's going to put stuff into like more of a mainstream eye, which I mean, pros and cons to that. But now like maybe our athletes will actually start getting paid what they deserve. Maybe they'll get the insurance they deserve. So when they have it like an injury, like they're not out forever. And like, I feel like that started with like OnlyFans being like sponsoring people, and like that being like a mainstream like company is now putting money into mountain biking where that wasn't a thing before. But now like downhill mountain biking may be a household name. Like there's going to be like your average Joe being like, oh, mountain biking, that's cool. I'm hopeful that it'll be just as mainstream as like soccer or football or whatever. Like that's where I feel like including women not only gives representation to us and to the younger women, but it also increases the eyes on mountain biking and getting more people stoked on mountain biking. So that's my 2 cents.
No, that's exactly right, because the market's already there. The women riders, we're already here. We're already here and we're already doing it. And we're already trying to navigate what it means to be a woman rider in a male dominated sport, how to find apparel that fits us, how to learn about our bike better. Like all of that is we're already out here doing this. So including women in these events doesn't reduce or limit or restrict men riding and competing in the sport at all. We're adding to it. Nothing is being taken away here. And I think that's something that people don't understand, is they think adding women to this is somehow going to shortchange the men. But like Carly said, mountain biking isn't pie. Like there's room for all of us here. And the more athletes that are included in this, the more women are represented, the more these brands are seeing that like, oh, there is a market for women. Oh, this is a part of this. Da, 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 da. So that's why I was saying in some of the memes, like supporting women riders is supporting mountain biking, just mountain biking. You're not even supporting women's mountain biking. By supporting women riders, you're supporting the entire sport of mountain biking, because this does affect everyone. It has it can be a catalyst for the right type of change in the industry. But we just make memes, so I don't know.
But we need the memes.
Right.
I actually, that just reminded me, what pants have you guys found or apparel that like fits you guys? Because this is the one question, and this is the one thing, like I know what seat is somewhat like is pretty darn comfortable. I know, like I feel like I've got a lot of things figured out, but when it comes to like the pants, I haven't figured it out or found it. So have you guys had any luck with that?
Carly, do you mind if I start this one real quick?
Sure, go ahead. Do your thing.
So to jump in real quick, some of the work that I've been able to do over with Women's MTB Network has been designed on this. We have an entire article write-up. We did a podcast where we broke down a whole bunch of different women's apparel in mountain biking, from chest protectors to pants, shorts, all of it. So there's a ton of resources over there. And I'm just giving a little plug. I don't get anything back from this. I don't get any whatever, but it's a great resource. And we put in a lot of hard work there. So it's an awesome way to break down what we've worn and what's worked for us. But I'll let Carly start though with her favorite stuff.
I will put all of that link and those audios like in the box so that so people can find all of that, because I think it's so helpful going through all the equipment, what's needed and like what fits. Did you want to add anything to that, Carly?
Yes.
Probably not. She literally I was just gonna refer to her. But just shameless plug here. I just spent a lot of money on the new Loose Riders cargo pants. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get any kickbacks from them. But as a shorter, thicker woman, one, they have amazing pockets. And two, the stretchy waistband with the actual slider is pristine. So if you want to spend the money on them, feel free. I really like them. I ordered them in every color.
I need to try those. I need to try those for sure. I've heard good things about them. My current favorite pants are by Shredley. I can't remember the name of them, but they make one with a really stretchy waistband at the top, and they have a lot of great pockets. And the Troy Lee Designs women's Lilium pants. Those are my two favorite ones for riding park and stuff. So yeah, I'm not sponsored by either of them. I don't get anything, but yeah, that's what I wear. That's what I like.
That is amazing. Okay, cool. I did want to change it up, like the conversation a little bit. And each of you've had your own health journey / injury journey. So I'd love for like each of you to kind of talk about that. I know, Carly, you've had like gut and hormone issues, which is like, I'm like, oh my God, I need to hear about this because it's something that like I'm going through and it's something that I'm trying to heal. Beka, I haven't done an ACL. And it's something that I'm like, I'm hoping I'm not. So I'd love to jump to that afterwards. But Carly, so tell us a little bit about your health journey, where you're at with it now. And also like, how did that affect your riding and your relationship with riding as well? Like, I'd just love to hear that.
Yeah. So this all started about 2 years ago. So I've been on this journey for 2 years. I originally started working with a nutritionist because I was kind of doing bodybuilding and kind of like I was doing a bulk. I did a really slow bulk over time, but during that bulk, I was actually gaining more weight than we anticipated. Despite like me working out 5 days a week, hitting my macros, all that kind of stuff. And so she was like, well, maybe this is your first bulk. Maybe like things will even out when we got to the cut. So we got to the cut. She weaned me off very slowly. She was excellent. But during that cut, I continued to gain weight. And that was the biggest red flag. And that's where like my energy was in the shitter. My skin looked terrible. I felt awful. And I was 15 pounds heavier despite doing everything right. So I went through a bunch of doctors. Everyone gave me the worst advice. I had one doctor told me to not eat dairy or fried foods. I literally don't eat either one of those things. So it's like, sir, no. But my best friend actually recommended me a book called Period Repair Manual by Lara Broyden. And I started reading that, and that kind of touched a little bit on hormones. And I was like, all right, well, I have an IUD in. Maybe I'll get that taken out. So I took that, got that removed, which was more trouble than I want to admit. I had to actually.
It's a whole thing in itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a lot of doctors refuse to take it out. And I'm like, I will literally pull it out myself if I have to. But I didn't have to. So I lost like 1 to 2 pounds after that, but it wound up just being water weight. And so I finished the Period Repair Manual, but it did touch on gut health in that book. And I'm like, interesting. So I picked up a book that I found online called Gut Health Reset by Cara Holmes. I read that book and I felt like it was written for me. She discussed, all the problems I was having. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, I always thought that like gut health was like hokey, but now here I am. So long story short, I wound up ordering my own tests. All the tests actually came back positive for SIBO, methane, and I had H. pylori, which was a stool sample test. Don't recommend taking that. It wasn't fun.
Oh my God. I did one recently, like a month ago. Fuck. I'd almost rather get an IUD out. No, I'm kidding. But it was like,
for real,
it was fucked. Yeah. It was a process. You just got to like mentally prepare before it.
Oh, I like gagged the entire way. I could not. And I'm like, it's my own poop. Like I couldn't get it. Anyways, so that wound up like saying that I had H. pylori. And I also had really low immune response, which was kind of concerning. But with that, I started treating based on the protocol she recommended in the book. And I felt like I made really good progress, but I felt like I kind of also plateaued after a couple months. So I wound up getting a functional nutritionist out of Australia. And I've been working with her since last September on eradicating my SIBO and H. pylori. And I've since lost my 15 pounds, which was crazy. It all came off within a month and a half. That's how inflamed my body was. It was crazy. But now I have like so many different antimicrobials and supplements that like I have a bag, like a legitimate tote bag with all of them. And my patients think I'm crazy. My employees think I'm crazy, but it's like, I take 5 pills at a time, like, and it's 3 times a day, but, much better now. I've completely eradicated my H. pylori infection, which is incredible. Still kind of getting rid of SIBO, but I had methane dominant SIBO to start with, but it usually converts to hydrogen dominant SIBO. So I am now in the hydrogen dominant SIBO, which I'm currently getting rid of. And that protocol ends in about 3 more weeks. So then I retest and see where I'm at. So that was a very long-winded story.
Wow. No, it's cool.
Yeah. I'm currently in similar land, similar territory. Yeah, it's tough. It's rough. It's and I think healing it like through like supplements and functionally, it's I mean, it's kind of like, this is the thing, it's like the only way I think you can really heal it as well is through like supplementation and nutrition, and doing it. It's slow, and it's like, it takes so much discipline, and it takes like a lot of sacrifice, and it can be a slog. But when you start seeing like your skin like start to look like healthier and clearer, and like that inflammation, like you wake up some mornings and you're like, oh, I don't feel like I'm like on a deathbed this morning. Like I'm not like just like aching and sore, or like you're like, I actually feel like I want to go to the gym. I actually want to move my body. Yeah. You're like, oh my gosh, it's like slowly working. And I think it's like once you can get to that stage and you can then go, okay, getting into the groove of it. How has that affected your writing and like your movement as well? Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of ways. I didn't realize how fatigued I was. And I didn't realize how shit my recovery was. I was just like, oh, I did a really heavy leg day. I'm going to be sore for a week, which is not normal. And like, I found that like riding half a day was like all I could handle. And I didn't realize that wasn't normal, especially because, you know, you think, oh, I'm doing like high intensity activity, I'm going to have to take more breaks. But now that I'm starting to heal, I can ride all day. I can go to the gym. I think the most insane thing, is that when I used to like get my cycle, I literally was knocked out. I could not lift weights. I could not leave my bed. Like it was just the worst. And I would have the worst cramps, and it was just like, suck it up and deal with it. Now that I'm like healing, I have the correct supplements, I can actually work out at the gym on my period. I don't get cramps anymore. I can ride. It's like absolutely bonkers to see how life-changing this has been.
That's so cool. And mentally, what's the difference for you, I guess? And like, what's your journey been? Because I know like riding, like it's a physical thing, but that mental, like, because I know for myself, like when I'm in like my like fatigued or that like burnout, I guess you could almost say like that's almost what it's like, is like you're just a little bit cooked and you just can't seem to like pull yourself out of it no matter what you eat, like how much sleep you get, all of that kind of stuff. I know that I guess we were talking about like that drop, like just doing that drop, like just doing it. Like I find like my nervous system goes, no, like we're not, like we don't want to ride. We don't want to like take those like unnecessary risks, because I think it's like my gut, which is like connected to my brain, which is like trying to keep me safe. And I think like it's so funny that when I'm feeling good within my body mentally, I'm able to go, bitch, you got this. Like you can, you know, you've got it. Like, let's go for it. So I'd love to hear more about like your journey through that.
Yeah. So I have horrible confidence issues on my bike. However, this year, like working on my nutrition and my gut health, I've noticed that I'm way more in tune with my body. I don't feel like the ghost in the machine anymore. I know where I need to be on my bike. I know where my body position is supposed to be. I also know my limits a lot more now, where I'm like, I used to just push and push and push because I was always tired. But now I'm like, it's time to slow down. Like you can live to ride another day. Don't keep pushing. And I feel like that mental clarity has helped so much. And like this year, I'm really perfecting like my jumping. And for me, that was a huge mental block, and it still kind of is. But now I'm able to like feel the correct spot in the air where like you're allowed to throw a whip or a trick. Like I never felt that before. So like being centered on my bike and being centered in my body has made such a huge difference. So like I definitely attribute that to like the brain fog disappearing and everything like that, all because of like me taking care of my body, which is insane to say. Like, yeah, it's that simple, but like it's not that simple.
That's so epic to hear. Like it sounds like you've really come into your body and you're finding your groove, and like that brain body, like you're syncing, and hormones, I guess, like you're syncing because you're in a calmer place where you're actually able to feel what's going on, especially with jumping. I think that's like so important, is like that like millimeter off and you're fucked.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing. And Beka, your ACL, so are you back on your bike yet?
No, unfortunately not. So my first ACL injury was in 2022. In the fall of 2022. And that was on my bike. I did rupture my ACL on my bike, but it was the craziest thing because I've taken a lot of big hits, and I've taken some big crashes doing some big stuff. And I was just going around a corner on a connector trail, and it's a trail I've ridden a million times. Everything was great, but I hit a sun glare going around the corner. The sun was setting, so I hit a sun glare, and I think it just waffled a little bit. I don't know. And I washed out just to the side. It looked like a nothing. And I have a recording of this of me going down, and it just like if you were to see someone do this, you'd be like, "Oh, you good? Cool. Like let's get back up." Da, 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 da. It was the most meaningless nothing. I wouldn't even call it a crash. It was just like a little tiny slip and fall over, like washout. And I felt my knee. I didn't hear a pop or any of that, but the pain was just insane. It was just absolutely crazy how bad the pain was. And when I stood up, it started to buckle, and I was like, well, that's not good. So found out it was my ACL. But what was crazy was that in the time period between the injury, roughly like a week or two after that, up until when I had my surgery, I had no pain. And I was riding very delicately, but I was still riding. And it was really like a big mental challenge for me to walk into the OR that day when I had no pain. And it was the most intense, gnarly, painful experience I've ever endured. I had to have a wonderful surgeon. He's incredibly supportive of me and my goals. And the surgery was a success, this and that, but the recovery, oh my God, it was, no one could prepare me for that. I thought I was, used to doing athletic stuff and I can get through anything and I'm not really affected by pain, but this was another level. But had a very successful recovery. My therapists were awesome. They were really connected to keeping me designing a program based on my goals, not just one size fits all. Here's an ACL recovery. They wanted to design things that would help me back on the bike. So a lot of balance and stabilization exercises. So yeah, when I got back out to riding last July, I felt amazing on my bike. I felt so good out there. I still had to kind of mentally keep myself in check because I wanted to just enjoy myself. And there was a lot of that internal monologue of competitiveness of like, well, why can't I go back out and hit all the sick features I've done before? It's like, well, it's not worth it for me right now, not in this process. So in the fall of last year, I was actually walking, and I was walking in the woods, and I stepped into what I didn't realize was like a little like gopher hole because it was the fall, it was leaves, hyperextended my knee. ruptured the graft, ruptured the new ACL. It was nothing that could have been prevented. It was nothing that was wrong with the surgery. It was just pure shit luck, just 100% pure shit luck. And that was mentally really, really hard. I was in tears meeting with my surgeon again because it was like deja vu all over again. And I was like, should I just quit? Am I done? Should I just give up riding? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't believe I have to do this all over again. And he's like, no, absolutely not. Not because of this, not because of me, not because of this. So, I know he supports me, and they did a great job. They did added some kind of extra stuff to my knee. They did a little bit of a secondary procedure to strengthen this graft. They, as morbid as this may sound, they actually searched for a very strong donor cadaver graft. And this one is even, it's larger than my first one. So they like reinforced it, putting it in, and they spent a long time in the OR making sure it was right. That I feel very supported by this team. But this mental recovery has been insane. It's just been awful. And it's hard missing the beginning of bike season 2 years in a row, right? And feeling very like left behind and left out as all of this is happening. And I know in the grand scheme of things, like I am still very lucky in the sense that I'm still able to ride, and I've got an epic bike and people that support my recovery. But for me, it still fucking sucks, like it's been okay for me to acknowledge that. I've tried to lean into the suckiness and not just let empty platitudes, well, at least this and at least that. Like, it's still true, and it's good to have perspective, but I've kind of allowed myself to be upset and to be pissed off and to be angry and just to feel it, right? Because I know when I get back on the bike, it's all going to be worth it. So that's where I am. I'm nearing the end. If all continues to go well, which it will, I'll be back on the bike in July. Right in time for a big event Carly and I have going on at the end of July. So we're stoked about that. But yeah, that's the process, recovery sucks. And luckily I've been able to lean on Carly for a lot of this, since she is a physical therapist and she's very familiar with ACL injuries. So she's given me a lot of good feedback and support. And when I've had questions about my MRIs, and, she's helped me look at that stuff. So it's been a process, but I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. And I do want to ask, and I'm not sure if this, like, you feel this at all, so I don't want to like plant any seeds by no means, but I mean, it's really funny because when my health is compromised, or I feel a little bit like, oh, I have this podcast where I talk about extreme sports, like I should be doing, should be like out there riding and like doing this thing. But then like when you're like not able to, like the imposter syndrome, I find is like, it's so strong. And I'm like, why am I even doing this? Like, I don't even like, I'm not even like on my bike, or I'm not even like out there surfing or snowboarding or whatever. Have you guys felt that like in your journeys as well? Like having this meme page that's all about riding, and then there is like this like other thing that's going on that's like maybe causing challenges with like riding. Like, do you guys get that?
Oh, absolutely.
Or is
100%.
it just me?
No, I do 100%. And what I'm tired of, I hear myself saying a lot of these things. I'm tired of always having an excuse. And it always feels like I have a reason, oh, I can't do it because of my knee or this or that. And it's like, God, I'm just so fucking tired of having a reason that I can't do these things. And it's only myself that is feeling this way, that's interpreting them as excuses versus a legitimate medical reason. But it's hard not to hear yourself and be like, oh my God, I hate the way I sound right now. Like, why I have a reason that I can't do this. Like, it's hard not to just suppress that and minimize that feeling, or that, all of it, the experience. But it's hard to keep it in perspective. So no, I 100% agree with that. Like it's a challenge. It's a challenge to feel like you belong when you're not able to participate.
Yeah. And Carly, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think so. I feel like she's kind of touched on it. I feel like being a meme creator in the bike world, like sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough, but like that's, like Beka said, is just, I'm putting that own pressure on me. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I love riding bikes, and that's all that matters.
100%. It's like, yeah, like to make memes. I like to talk to people, and we like to ride bikes. Like, at the end of the day, like that's what matters. But it's so
That's
funny,
it.
like that. It's like such a mental game, like all extreme sports, and like even I guess like business and like having your own project or platform. It's like it's so easy to like get in your head, and the way it like reflects, and we talk about it so much on the podcast, how like extreme sports or like doing all these things is like such a strong reflection on like how you're feeling in your life and growth and all of that. So it's kind of cool that you guys are going through that same journey as well.
Yeah.
I did also want to ask, you guys have been quite open with like ADHD. ADHD is so common in extreme sports. So I'd love for you guys to like touch on, I guess, like how it affects you, and then also like how it relates to extreme sports as well.
Yeah, so I think Becca and I both were late diagnosed. I was just diagnosed 2 years ago now at the age of 31, which is wild. I feel like if I had the resources for an ADHD kid growing up, I would have been unstoppable. But here I am, a physical therapist running a meme page. But I think everybody in extreme sports has ADHD. I think, and I feel like that's maybe a blanket statement, but it's just one of those things where extreme sports kind of forces your brain to shut off because you are in survival mode in a way. But like, it's that like type 2 fun where like you're surviving, but when you're done, you're like, fuck yeah, I survived. That was so dope. That was so fun. And like, for me, like, I don't know if anyone else with ADHD has this, but I have like 10 channels in my brain going on at the same time. And like, one is a song, one is like a repeated phrase, one is like something I need to do tomorrow, something that happened yesterday, something that I did fucking 10 years ago that I'm still thinking about. Like, those voices when I'm riding my bike are almost silent. And I feel like that's what I chase when I'm on my bike, where it's like, I am finally in my body. I'm finally here. I'm finally present, which neurotypicals, I feel like, have that luxury. And I don't know. I feel like I found my people with extreme sports, because I feel like we're all like, you know, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, we're all just get really excited, and it's like our special interest that we're like blab on about. But yeah, like, I feel like that correlation is very high and definitely should be studied.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I was also late diagnosed. I was diagnosed when I was 40. So I think Carly and I started meds literally at the same time, if I remember right. And it was such a game changer, and it makes a lot of sense. And what's interesting is I've been involved with, different doctors throughout the year regarding my mental health, and I've brought up the notion of having ADHD before, and I was always dismissed. And what's fascinating is that my mother and brother are both classically diagnosed ADHD, but for whatever reason, when I brought it up, it was, no, you don't. No, you don't. You're highly successful. You're really good at getting good grades. You're da 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 da. Like, oh, okay, that's fine, but I'm also a massive fear-based procrastinator, and leaving things until the absolute last minute, and then just like fear doing everything really, really quickly. And so there was a lot of behaviors that are very classic to ADHD that for whatever reason was just being excused away. And it wasn't until having a conversation with my current doctor that he was like, well, yeah, he's like, you probably have ADHD. And I was like, well, my mom and brother. And he's like, well, then, yeah, that makes sense. Like, okay, let's try these meds. Like, it was so easy at that point, like to finally feel heard and validated, but, I do agree with Carly about a lot of what she said. Being on my bike is where I can just my mind goes quiet because I'm so focused on what I'm doing. And it feels so physically good to just have one focus, and that's it. Like, there's just something so clarifying about that. And it's addicting, and it's a great hyper focus to be able to have when you're using it in obviously in a healthy way. And I think those of us with ADHD, very quickly becomes our hyperfixation, right? And we make a lot of memes about that, about how, bikes are kind of, I don't know, it's taken me a little bit to accept this, but I've realized that riding bikes is a huge part of my identity. And like anything, we're made up of our experiences and what we do, but being a mountain biker is definitely something that I've come to accept is a big part of my identity and who I am. And it all makes sense now, though. It makes sense with this diagnosis and with how I feel about it, and the good hyperfixation, sometimes the bad, all of it is just a part of it. But it's a fun thing because Carly and I understand it when we're working with, developing memes or working on the business and stuff. And when we finally have our thoughts unite, that's like when we say our one collective brain cell has collided and is finally working together. So it's like, yes, one brain cell united and we can get shit done. So it's good that we have the same understanding of it and we don't hold each other to some outlandish expectation because we get it.
And I think like it has to contribute to your creativity and the way that your brains work, and like your ability to like notice these patterns that then like can be laughed about in a meme, and that other people are like feeling this because like I guess it's like we're all going through it, and it's so in some ways it's like it sounds like it's like a superpower for you guys because your memes are like so fire that, and it's like it's so funny because like I remember when I found your page I was like, oh my God, this is my humor. Like I so get this. And all my other friends that like they have it, and they're like we're just all on that like same page. And funny enough, like most of us all ride bikes as well. How did you guys did you ride bikes before medication as well? I assume you guys did, and post medication. Have you guys like noticed a difference in that?
Yeah, so I can't take my meds and ride. It's one, I feel like it stunts my ability to think quickly, which is great when I'm trying to like focus down and like write a nice email or come up with some kind of bullshit note that I have to type for my patients. But when it comes to biking, I feel like my brain needs to be fast. And I think that's why, like, I feel like that's where ADHD is the superpower in biking, because your brain is taking in so much pieces of information and it's processing it at that crazy fast lightning pace. And when you have a medicine that's meant to like slow that down, I find it's almost impossible. I remember I tried it because my psychiatrist like recommended, hey, just like take half your dose, see what it's like. And that way you can make up your mind as to when you want to take your meds. She was really cool. And the funny thing is, like, I took half of it. I'm on 27 milligrams extended release of Concerta, which is Ritalin. And I literally just took half the dose. I went riding and I could not stop staring at rocks that I shouldn't be going towards. I was like, whoa, let's go. And like literally was like, I was like, this is awful. I was just like it was like a moth to a flame. It was wild. So I was like, we're not doing this again. So that's my experience being on meds on bikes. I don't know about you, Becca.
That's so funny. I remember, Carly, I think we were both at Creek that day because I remember running into you. And I was like, hey, what's up? How's your riding going? You're like, dude, I cannot take my meds and ride. And then you were like off. And I'm like, okay. I think you guys left early that day because you were just like not feeling it. But it's actually interesting. It's the opposite for me because I think it helps me focus on what I want to focus on. I do 100% get what Carly is saying. I think this is what's great about finding a doctor that understands you, finding the right med that fits you, or understanding how ADHD affects you personally. But for me, it helped me kind of focus on what I needed to do versus I felt like my thoughts were in a million directions. And it was like, am I doing this too wrong? Am I doing where I would just kind of be in my head too much, where this kind of helps me just ride and just feel how your body feels and just ride. So, I don't remember. I can't identify a time since I've been on meds that I've ridden without them. I'm sure there has been a time. So I don't have any like concrete riding with it, riding without it since I've been on medication, but I know it's something that I always take before I ride.
Yeah. That's so cool that like, I mean, it just goes to show that like everybody's experience is so different, and like your relationship to your medication and also relationship to riding and how you experience your riding and like the state you need to be in order to ride is like so different. And I think it's so important for everyone to find their flow or their jam or like what works for them, like what you eat during the day, like everything is like just so important. And it's like so cool to hear like those different stories. And yeah, I hope this is helpful for other people listening as well. Like, yeah, that like if you ride bikes, then there is like a chance that you do have like ADHD.
Yeah.
Kind of goes hand in hand. Or I guess any like extreme sports, like to be honest, because it is like that one moment where it quietens your mind, you're in your focus and you're just doing that one thing. What are you guys doing for self-care at the moment? Like what's lighting you guys up and what like, and I guess this kind of touches on like that mental health piece, because I think ADHD and mental health, like, you know, they're so together. And yeah, what are you guys doing for self-care at the moment?
So for me, a big thing recently has been work-life balance. Obviously, being in healthcare is really difficult, but I kind of have this unspoken rule with myself now that I don't do work outside of work anymore. I really just focus on things that bring me joy. And now that it's bike season, obviously, I'm trying to get on my bike as much as possible. But before bike season, it was the gym. I tried to get into the gym at least 3 times a week. And then I also really like to play video games. So that's another thing. Like if I don't feel like the gym, like I'll, play my Switch or something silly like that, where I'm able to like calm down, decompress, and really focus on just recharging. Cause I feel like having ADHD, just to tie this all back in, you get burnt out really quickly. And I suffered a lot with burnout, especially before my gut health journey. Like I was stressed all the time, and it really just, it wreaked havoc mentally, physically. And I'm now being like, no, I'm in charge of my health. I'm in charge of my life. And these are my priorities, and my priorities are literally what comes first before work, where like, I always thought, I had to make work number one, and I don't. That doesn't mean I don't care about my patients. I love my patients. They are getting better, but I don't have to stress myself out about it outside of work. So, yeah.
That's a hard one. So yeah. Good on you.
No, I definitely agree. I think finding the balance, right? And making sure that you're carving time out for yourself. And that always has been time on a bike for me. And before my injuries, I always enjoyed going out on rides by myself. These are at like my local trails and stuff. I don't recommend riding parks by yourself, but that was always something very important, just to get out by myself and just focus on that. I've joined the e-bike club since my injury, which I love it. I've got a really, really nice specialized e-bike, and it just makes it really enjoyable, because now, with my injury, pedaling is the one motion that really sucks. It just hurts. And I have really bad grade 3 osteoarthritis in my patella. So the pedaling is aggravated by that even more. I'm just accepting it. I've spent a good 12 years out on these local trails. Like I can still have fun on an e-bike. And I know there's all these stigmas about them and whatever. I think it's all bullshit. It's more people having fun on bikes than who's not going to support that. But, without riding though, right now, what I wound up getting into after my first ACL was making bike inspired jewelry. So I use like little parts of chains and stuff, bike chains, and I've made all sorts of jewelry that took off and became kind of successful in its own little thing. And I just do it because I enjoy it, and it kind of keeps me involved in something artistic and creative, and still kind of bike focused, because I make it for people that are in the cycling world. So yeah, that's kind of where I've been splitting my time.
That's so cool. I'll have to add that in the bio as well and like have some photos and stuff. Because I've seen some videos and stuff of you doing it and I'm like, that's so sick. I love that so much.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun.
Yeah, so good. And what's coming up for you guys? Like do you guys have any trips planned? I know that you hinted on you've got an event coming up. And is there anything you can talk about? And if not, can you like give us like some hints for what's coming? Because I'm like, ooh, exciting times ahead for you guys.
So yes, we do have an event coming up July 20th at Blue Mountain Bike Park in Pennsylvania, which is Beka's local bike park. I'm super stoked on it. We kind of chatted about it last night during our meeting and she has all the details, so I'm going to let her speak on this, but I just want to say I'm absolutely I'm so excited. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Blue Mountain is my local bike park. I absolutely love it. I've gotten to know the park manager there, the trail crew, everyone that works there is so super cool. It was the first place I ever rode downhill on my XC bike. And it's what got me into it though. So all the people that work there were so supportive of that journey and that process. And they know about our account, Girls Pull Up Not Out, and I approached the park manager about doing a women's weekend, a women's event there, and not meant to be like an entire only female-based takeover, but we want to introduce people or at least get women together to share the bike park experience with them. If they're brand new to the bike park or if they've ridden other parks, but they're looking for other women to ride with. Men are welcome to attend and join this process as well, but it is obviously directed at bringing women together for the bike park experience. We're hoping to make this an annual thing. We've got a whole bunch of cool stuff lined up for the weekend, some camping, some happy hour kind of stuff with a taco truck. And we've gotten great, just epic support from this bike park. And they really want to continue this relationship with us for hopefully future events. And it's giving us, they're pretty much giving us like full support to do everything we want in it. And there really isn't a limit to what we can do. We're starting small and just seeing how it goes and where it takes us, trying to keep our expectations, in check for this, but we know it can just grow and develop some bigger and bigger things. Other than that, we have some potential partnerships on the horizon that are going to be really, really cool. Don't want to give out too many details, but I don't think when we are able to put it into its final everything and we can talk about it, I don't think it'll be a surprise. If that's about as much as I want to say. But It's pretty exciting though. I mean, Carly and I talk all the time, like with the success of the account and, Carly got us set up and created the LLC, and we have a business bank account with a card, a debit card that says Girls Pull Up Not Out LLC on it. And it's like, I remember getting in the mail and I'm like, what the fuck? This is crazy. So, yeah, that's been wild. And it's so funny. We always joke and we say like, we did it, Mom. Like we're successful, but it's just fun because we get to pursue this as such a passion and it's great. The other thing that we currently have is our merch. We finally, Carly designed some amazing merch. All of our merch was created and designed by her. So we're in the final stages of the pre-sale for our official merch, which has kind of been a terrifying process, but it's been fun. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. Anything else, Carly? I think that's it.
I think you covered it all.
Yeah.
How exciting. Is this your first like community event where you'll be like face to face with people? That's going to be so cool. I can't wait to hear like how you guys feel after that, because that's going to be a moment. Like that's going to be like, holy shit. Like I hope you guys have like an amazing turnout and you get to meet all the people that are like obsessed with your memes.
I know we're going to have a blast. So, whether we get 50 people or 5 people, I know we're going to have fun because the bike park just really supports us and they kind of love what we're doing with the page too. And it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a great time for sure.
And just bikes.
And just bikes. Bikes are the best.
Literally bikes.
Bikes are the best. This will be Carly's first time there. So I'm excited to share this bike park with her because I love it. So yeah, it'll be a good time.
That's so exciting. And just my last question, the name, how did that come about? Because whenever I tell people, like, I was talking to a mate about it at like a wedding a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, do you know like the girls pull up, not out?" And he just was like, like sprayed his drink everywhere, and he's like, "What did you just say?" He's like, "I have not heard of them." He's like, "But that name?" He's like, "What did you just say? How did that come about?" Because I fucking love it.
This is all Carly. This is all Carly.
Yeah. So my brain like works in like meme format. That's kind of literally like memes and captions. And I feel like Becca and I, like, we went on like this tangent about like how men always, like, our first memes, like, we were just kind of like talking about, like, before the page even started, was like, oh, men are always telling us, just pull up. Like, you know, like that's what they kept telling us. And we're just like, dude, that's not how you fucking hit a jump. Like, you don't just pull up. Like, and that kind of evolved into like, wait a minute, this can be a pun. And so like, girls pull up, not out is way funnier because like we can't pull out because we don't have penises. So that's kind of how it started. Yeah.
So good.
It's been hilarious because this is very true of like Carly and I, when our one brain cells like ignite and like phew, like when we were very early in the meme page, we would kind of share all of our memes with each other and like, does this look okay? Like, what do you think of this caption? Or and we still do this from time to time if we're struggling with like an idea or a caption. But when the right wording or when the right caption like happens, we're both like, yes, that's it. Like, there's no debate.
Yes.
It's like, yes, that's it. And I don't know if we were on the phone or this was just via text at that time, but like we were going back and forth with what about this and what about that? And everything was like, meh, it feels kind of like cheesy. Yay, women, just, you know what I mean? Like, just like kind of hokey pink jerseys kind of stuff. But when she said it, I was like, oh, that's fucking it. That's it. And it fits our personalities perfectly because we're, you know, like we said, the account, it's low risk in the sense that we can really be ourselves with our sense of humor, and we can be, you know, vulgar at times if it makes sense for the meme, or we can swear if it makes sense. Like, it just fits. So it's wound up just being perfect. But yeah, I've heard hilarious reactions to the name all over the place. It's great.
It's so good. So good. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully we got something together with all this tech stuff. So for anyone listening, if you've made it to the end, you're our people. Thank you so much. I've loved having you guys on so much. It's been so nice connecting with you. You guys are my heroes, and I feel like you've like exceeded, and I'm like, yes. Like, you guys are such legends. So thank you so much for taking the time and being patient with me as well while we record this.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for having us. This was great. Yeah, this has been awesome. So really appreciate you just thinking of us and reaching out to Carly and getting all this set up. So thank you.
Oh, and quickly, where can people find you?
At Girls Pull Up Not Out on Instagram and girlspullupnotout.com. Or if you want to email us, we have an actual Gmail account, girlspullupnotout@gmail.com.
Yep.
Well, at least no one probably has the same name.
It's true.
And the company name, people probably don't have the same company name either.
True.
No. Yeah. It's great.
All right. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Hello. If you are watching this, it means you've made it to the end of the podcast. And I'm so blessed that you've chosen to spend the time here with us at Extremely Well. If you liked what you saw here today, and I'm hoping you did if you're here at the end, can you please hit that subscribe button, hit the follow, leave a review, tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. This is all for you. So we want to make sure that we are serving the community in the best way that we can. If you want to connect with us through our other channels, I'll leave them down below in the description box, and I can't wait to connect with you next time. No, this is so passionate and this is gold, but I was like, I don't think we're recording it, and I don't want her to keep speaking. I'm happy I put the disclaimer in at the start.
Yeah, right. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, you live close to a downhill park, but you have no internet.
Oh, priorities, and it's correct.
Yeah,
they're right. So I think we're still recording because I haven't ended it, and we're all recording. So you were so passionate in that last bit. I saw it wasn't recording, and I'm like, fuck no.
No, it's okay. This is like very on brand for me. This is perfect. So no, that's fine. I mean, I can go off on this stuff like all day. Like it's fine.